experience social anxiety and depression. What happens in this kind of setting? You say, it's not me, it's you. You're prejudiced against my group. And that relates to the social psychology research that you may have heard of. That is, stigmatized groups in the society don't always feel low self-esteem. That's because they make an attribution that it's about others' prejudice more than about themselves. And what's happening in diverse settings is we believe there's a lot of what we call attributional ambiguity. If you get bullied in those kinds of settings, it's not so clear that it's me. It's not so clear that it's you. And that serves kids better. Moreover, we think that diverse settings, this is our huge current study where we focus on trying to understand the psychosocial benefits of ethnic diversity. We are trying to understand the mechanisms why that is. What's so protective of attending a very heterogeneous environment? Is it that kids have easier time fitting in here if they didn't fit in there? They can find their niche easier. Is it that by forming cross-ethnic friendships, they can relate to everybody and they don't feel any anxiety about who they are in that setting? So those of you who are interested in coming to UCLA, come to UCLA and work with us. This is a huge undertaking, and we are actually, as part of this huge sample, we're following the kids from 2 of the middle schools here in Santa Monica School District, and we are currently seeking funding to continue to follow these kids up 1 year after high school. So wish us well. So you may, after all of this, be saying now, you know, I want to become a teacher. I want to work with youth. What should you be thinking about? I'd say number 1, never ignore an incident. It's not that when you walk by, when you see something happening, when you hear somebody getting called names, it's not that the bully doesn't know that they're doing the wrong thing. But guess what? By not saying anything, you're letting the victim down. You're not showing your support. You become the bystander. We have to be very careful to not to underestimate the emotional effect of teasing. You know, the kids are the first ones to say, oh, well, that was just a joke. It was a prank. What's the big deal about that? Well, it's a big deal if the target of it is bothered, is distressed. It's all about the victim. And this is much more in line with thinking about how, for example, we define sexual harassment or harassment in the workplace. The legal definition has to do with the feelings of the target. Use these incidents. So when you are interacting with groups of kids, use the incidents to help students problem solve, strategize, and cope. Use that very moment, right then and there, that incident. There's nothing better than that. And finally, listen and try to earn the kids' trust. That is, it's all about trust, why they don't come to us to tell them about their plight. Thank you.
Oh, it's going. Okay, thank you so much. That was really fascinating. And I think let's open it up to some questions. So here we go.
function of the age of the kids or the grade as opposed to where the transition is where the transition is. Not that we have that many studies on it, but whatever data we are able to see, that's where you get it. Yeah. Yes, great. Another great question. So during the transition, when kids are feeling uncertain about their place, and when they some of the kids have this need to be in control, is there anything that we can do about the setting, the way we structure it? Absolutely we can. So again, the big difference going from elementary school to going to middle school is what? You go from self-contained classes where you were in Mr. Smith's classroom. That was your group, that group of kids, from one period to the next, and you had primarily one teacher. You go to a setting where all of a sudden, it's not only that you have now 6 teachers at times, from one period to the next it's another teacher, and moreover, it's different set of classmates. So we've taken it to the extreme, that is the shift is so drastic. And what we know is that these young adolescents, they still need that kind of structure where they know their place. So what if the first year in middle school was much more like the elementary school? You predominantly have maybe just a couple of teachers, and all the kids are moving from one period to the next with pretty much the same classmates. Now, some schools are using these strategies, and as part of our big project, we're learning about that. The ways in which we can have ethnically very similar to two very similar schools, but one school uses very different instructional tactics, how the kids are experiencing their daily experiences in that school. And that should make a difference, and that's what we're trying to do.
Thank you. I wanted to find out, you have mentioned cultivating skill sets to improve self-esteem and the power of one as far as friendships and the more positive things. So do you think that what middle schools need to do is target more creating social programs that reinforce these things instead of trying to manage bullying and something very interesting?
Okay, so would I advocate that schools, middle schools in particular, have to be actually teaching kids social skills, for example, these kinds of skills that they need to deal with bullying?
No, what I mean is the middle schools need to create programs that reinforce friendship and
Create friendships. Exactly. Absolutely. So think about, again, instructionally what happens. So 5th grade, if that's the last year of elementary school. So what kinds of instructional methods are good teachers using? Group projects. Kids are working together collaboratively. What's the least likely instructional strategy in the beginning of middle school? Group projects, where kids would be able to collaborate. Why? Because the teachers are so concerned about behavior problems. Because there is no relationship between the teacher and the kids. This is what's really, really important to understand. So if you think about young adolescents who are moving to middle school, that peer approval is so important. They want to get to know the other kids. They want to be liked by the other kids. It's all about, I come to school because I want to meet, I want to spend time with my friends. Even in high school, that's the big motive to come to school, right? Why not capitalize on that? So absolutely, use more collaborative learning methods where kids not only are able to act on that social motivation. They want to affiliate with their peers, but now you're teaching them also skills how to work collaboratively with different kinds of individuals. That would be the best way. So again, we don't need always a separate program for every single problem we have in our schools. We just have to think smartly about it, right? And that's where, again, some of you who want to become teachers and work with youth, you know, sometimes the training, you have to do something else besides what the training gives you. You have to be constantly asking yourself, how can I accomplish this goal without us needing yet another program in our school? Okay, other questions?
Hi. I was just curious, you were referring to the strategies that get brought into the schools, like the hotspots, and I was wondering, as a method, you know, based on your expertise and your research, do you think bringing the bully and the victim together in workshops would really benefit them and to get even a bigger perspective and actually do a rotational system where the bullies don't go to the victim, that, you know, the bullies don't go to that specific victim that they interacted with, but they go to different victims and they speak to them and they get a bigger perspective and not only just be influenced by their behavior, but understand the behavior of other beings.
Okay, so that was a very interesting approach. So what about if the intervention had to do with bringing the bullies and victims for mediation, but not necessarily pairing the bully and the bully with the victim that they bullied, but by just providing an opportunity for kids to learn the perspective of one another. Again, peer mediation programs, even those that adults are in charge of, like teachers, they try to do that. It is about perspective taking. I've never heard that particular variation. I mean, that's interesting. So you don't pair the two who were involved in this particular situation. But the bottom line there is teaching the kids perspective taking helps. Does it fix the problem? Probably not. Because again, some of the bullies are so incredibly good that they can take the perspective of the victim in order to figure out what causes most pain for them. So, you know, the bullies don't necessarily benefit from that. The victims might benefit to a degree that they seem to be, after a while, very self-centered. They only see their plight and feel so very alone. So, you know, methods like that can help, but the mediation of incidents, follow through, whether you bring them both in or you bring them separately in, is very important. It's just like the research on conflict between kids and parents. Conflict is actually cognitively very good for kids. That is, that they argue with their parents, that's good. You know, it makes them make those cognitive leaps to be able to reason better and more convincingly. But what's critical for the conflict is that there's a resolution of conflict. That alleviates the psychological distress. Yeah?
Curious how you're relating it to our
I haven't. That is, does this research relate to gangs? It probably has some parallels. Again, one hypothesis out there is that the way